is the original Panic House. Don't know why it's original, but there's a line. The original Panic House. Coffee. I should take the spoon out. Luke has the, what's that called?
Dutch baby.
Dutch baby. Ansian has the hash something.
All right, Zach.
Zakium is already gone with all of his food. Oh, more.
Does it come with anything in there, like food or anything? No.
And Saya has the French toast.
Because I saw it in the photo.
We've been walking forever. Oh, that was scary. We actually got lost. We've made it to the Navy Pier. Woohoo!
You gotta go. Dad was...
We have booked a ride on that. Navy Pier. Man, I came into this food court area to go to the bathroom. This place is huge. This is the boat we're getting on once the other passengers disembark. And hit the skyline. Ooh, ah. We're all.
City. Other nicknames I like include Paris on the Prairie, Third Coast. All the bridges we're going under do indeed open up in succession, so folks can take their sailboats or tall boats out of storage, bring them into marinas along the lake, or vice versa. Kind of tricky to give an architecture tour when you can't see the buildings, so I'm grateful for tonight. Yeah, welcome my friends to our sweet home Chicago River. Let's jump into it. Let's talk building, shall we? Because we'll get started with this curvy column blue glass skyscraper on the left. Also the baseball stadium, Wrigley Field. So we'll talk about a variety of different architectural styles. The first being these European revivalist styles, which were really popular in the United States from like the 1880s to the early 90s, called contextualism. Kind of a mouthful. And we see a great example of contextualism coming up right in front of us in the Trump Tower. And I pointed out, so this is an entire residential complex completed in the mid-1960s, designed by Bertrand Goldberg. And this Goldberg guy really believed that people should be living downtown, which no one was really doing in Chicago in the late 50s, early 60s. So Goldberg designed Marina City to get residents downtown by offering all the resources of an entire neighborhood in a single complex. So there's housing up at the top, got parking right below it, and it is kind of risky parking. They do make you valet, by the way, thank God. Office building behind there, former movie theater, now the House of Blues, rest summer when it's nice out. And it was created so that we'd have a second shoreline besides the lake that's walkable. So you can walk a full 1.25 miles down the Riverwalk. And also, like I said, we've been working to clean the river up. A big way we've done that is by adding activities, amenities to the Riverwalk so that we get people down here, start caring more about the future of this lovely river. Was truly something original, forward-thinking for the 1920s, and Art Deco is all about the party. We see a great example coming up on the right in the magnificent Merchandise Mart. So Art Deco really embodied the lavishness, the optimism, the financial success of the 1920s, aka the Roaring 20s, and the Merchandise Mart features many key elements of Art Deco design. So first of all, it's enormous. Like I said, they were feeling pretty lavish at this time. And then it's also characterized by these vertical racing stripes, the small deep windows, a polished limestone facade, and then simple repeated geometric shapes, metallic elements. The Merch Mart was built in 1930. It originally served as the wholesale warehouse for the Marshall Fields department store. Today it's mostly like tech offices. Ideally, at the start of the timeline, we would have the Wrigleyville Deco, because it's enormous. It's kind of jazz depression. Not too long after that, we enter into World War II. So this left a huge gap in construction. But we're going from black boxes to white boxes. On the right, Gateway Center 3, 1971, built in what we call international style. And that's basically because from 4,000 to over 300,000. So with the city growing so quickly, they're rushing to house all these people, they're hastily building, they're getting really sloppy on construction. Also, no building regulations in place, so it was dollars in property damage. Also, because this lovely river that we're on right now was so disgustingly polluted, they all wanted to get in on this big rebuild. And these guys are smart. They finally realized wood is flammable, so they started. Okay, chapter 2, second part of the story. So we do a fantastic guy. Statues on top of the Chicago Board of Trade, built in 1930, and the statue is of Ceres, C-E-R-E-S. And Ceres is the Roman goddess of agriculture. So from Ceres, we actually get words like cereal, cerveza, and she's on top of the building because this is the Midwest. So Board of Trade's where we traded products like corn and wheat and agricultural futures. Our queen, this kind of peachy pink building in front of us, this is 311 Wacker. Yes, queen. As you can see, the crown lights up at nighttime, and it's typically just like a regular white light if it's not for like a major holiday. So when this building first went up back in the 90s, they quickly learned they needed to turn down the brightness on the crown during certain bird migration seasons, because when migrating birds were first coming through, they mistook the crown up there for the moon, and they were like flying around it, into it, real mess. So since then, the city does their best to adjust lighting on a bunch of different buildings to hopefully minimize bird casualties. All right, and then our king, of course, big fella, 2 white/blue antennas. Coming up, we got the Willis Tower. Unless you're from Chicago, then it's called the Sears Tower. This is the tallest building in Chicago. When it first went up in 1974, was the tallest building in the world. Remained the tallest in the world for 24 years. Was the tallest in the U.S. up until 2014. It was surpassed by One World Trade Center in New York City. So tallest in Chicago, the sky also sways in the wind. First technique we'll talk about in offsetting drift. So you can see the building is made up of a group of 9 columns. You can see where they're divided. So 9 columns, 3 on each side. Each column 75 feet by 75 feet. They're all bundled together at the base like a Rubik's Cube. And the columns rise to various heights. So 2 columns rise to the 50th floor, 2 to the 65th, 3 to the 96th, and then 2 to the 110th floor, where the antennas are popping out of. And this is a concept called bundled tubes. Bundled tubes. I always think it's such a lame name. It's called bundled tubes. The idea being that multiple columns of varying heights are going to offer more structural support, shield against the wind than just one singular column would. And bundled tubes doesn't have to be in this bunch or cube formation. We'll see another example of it later on that's pretty different. They make a little bit more sense. And real quick, just to clarify, the building today is officially called the Willis Tower, but talk to any Chicago native, they'll probably call it the Sears Tower, its original name. So for consistency's sake, I'm going to keep calling it the Sears Tower. And all the way up at the top of the Sears, you can see there's 5 glass boxes jutting out, lit up. So there's an observation area up there called the sky deck. And you can step out onto those glass boxes, those things that are lit up, during the daytime if you're feeling frisky. And on a clear day, you can see 4 states from that sky deck. So Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan. And you know those antennas we saw on top of the Sears, the blue ones? Those antennas are surprisingly tall, like almost 30 stories tall, which is about as tall as these black box buildings coming up here on the left. These antennas, though, don't get to count towards the building's overall height. They're considered purely utilitarian. But if we compare that with the now tallest building in the U.S., which is One World Trade Center, and One World Trade Center has a spike on top of it that's called a spire. Technically, a spire is not considered an antenna. Looks a lot like one, but not an antenna. A spire is considered a decorative design choice, therefore does get to count towards height. So all this to say that the roof of the Sears is technically 83 feet higher than the roof of One World Trade Center. So some say they beat us on like a little bit of a technicality. That's okay, they can certainly have it. I just gotta point out it also uses this reflective glass that kind of makes the whole Wolf Point neighborhood look good. So this is the Nuveen building, 1983. So kind of like way ahead of its time. It's another great example of how a building can conform to or come an angle. I always gotta take a moment to appreciate how enormous this building is, because it is huge. So the Merchandise Mart has 4.2 million square feet of office space inside, or 96 acres of space, or 73 American-sized football fields of space in this bad boy. Had its own zip code for a long time, up until kind of recently. Its own fire station was in there at one point. To this day, still has its own train stop inside of there too. And if you look to the right, you see that glass box mounted to the wall. Very fancy $8 million glass box projector system. Certain international competition seeking the most beautiful office building in the world. So they got tons of submissions from all over the world, and this was the winning design. This was deemed the most beautiful. And it's built in a French Gothic revival style, so the building's crown, the top of the building, is modeled after a 13th century cathedral in Normandy, France. And at the base of the trip tower, embedded in the wall, like the outside wall, they have like 150 stones. They're journalists collected from famous historical landmarks around the world. So there's like a bit of the Great Wall of China, Notre Dame Cathedral, the Taj Mahal, the Alamo, etc. Which is cool, because when else are you going to get a chance to touch all those in the same city? And then in place of Mr. Dusamel's Trading Post, a modern-day trading post, the Chicago flagship Apple Store, 2017. I love how simple they kept this. They really made it use of their environment. I also love that the roof kind of looks like an iPad, which was not intentional by the architects, stacked together in this horizontal axial plane. And because they really don't mess around, they also utilize the second technique we talked about this far again in this area. And this cute little like blue house type building on the right is a municipal chance to. Please just don't like stand on the benches or, you know, do anything I wouldn't do. If you gotta use the restrooms before we head in.
Saya, stand behind me. Zach, face me.
I don't think that's possible.
That was very interesting, very good. I think it was worth what we spent on it. Look how pretty the lights are here at the Navy Pier. Very pretty. There's a Navy Pier. We're getting our Chicago deep dish pizza. Hope we picked a good place.
Just in case.
This is Chicago deep dish pizza. It is in, yum. Carnivore in action.
All right.
Cannot wait to dig in. Pizza.
I think you might need. Are you sure?
Pizza. Let's try some. We are sassified. Again, to end our journey today, this is a better angle of the Ohio House. Neato. Googie.